Hello, I'm Robin Grier, President of Catalyst Communications Technologies. I'll be speaking at the P25 CAP Stakeholders Meeting associated with the APCO convention, and I want to provide a recording of the presentation that I'll make here for you to watch. Catalyst has been providing solutions for critical communications for nearly 30 years. And one of the things I'll focus on are 4 contracts that we've had with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to research and prototype solutions, standards compliant solutions for interworking between land mobile radio and broadband push-to-talk, as well as interoperability between disparate push-to-talk services. I'll focus particularly on these 3 standards: the Project 25, TIA 603, the basis for our legacy radio systems, and the 3rd Generation Partnership Project, that's a suite of standards for broadband communications. Let's think about LMR over the air, and particularly the Common Air Interface, this mature standard that has allowed for many different manufacturers to provide radios that work together on the same P25 system, particularly in trunking mode. Also, the frequency modulation, the basis of many of our legacy systems, and still very much in use. I'll focus on the P25 console subsystem interface and its cousin, the inter subsystem interface. And I'll point out that it is used both for LMR, but also many of the broadband push-to-talk services have interfaces that support it, which will allow for companies like Catalyst to provide interworking solutions to those services. On the broadband 3GPP side, I want to talk about what's called the client interface. This is the way that a cell phone or another broadband device communicates with that MCX system. And I'll show you how we've used that same very mature interface to connect consoles and gateways for interworking. Here's a diagram of the solution that we developed under our DHS contracts to research and build prototypes. And you'll see that for a P25 trunking system, we're using the console subsystem interface to connect into those systems. We're using the P25 digital fixed station interface to connect into repeaters and base stations. And we're using what we call radio control over IP, which is a series of different, oftentimes proprietary interfaces to various manufacturers' mobile radios, donor radios, if you will. And that allows us to talk to virtually any radio system, whether it's P25, DMR, MXDN, analog, conventional, but to do that in a sophisticated, controlled way. On the right side here, you'll see broadband. So this could be FirstNet Fusion or Southern Links Critical Link or some other system that supports the 3GPP standard using that mature client interface to make that connection. So Catalyst has commercialized the technology that we originally researched and prototyped under our DHS contracts. And today we have dozens of installations across the United States, including 2 statewide systems. These are standards compliant MCPTT systems that in many cases also include LMR interworking. They provide advanced capabilities, including emergency, presence, and location. And we're serving not only public safety markets like law enforcement, fire services, and EMS, but also public works, utilities, and education. The first example I'll tell you about is Dallas, Georgia. This is a city, a suburb, if you will, of Atlanta. And many years ago, they started with FirstNet push-to-talk, which you may remember used the Samsung MCX server, and it is compliant with the 3GPP standard. You may know that AT&T sunsetted FirstNet push-to-talk, and so Dallas was without that service. The great news is that Dallas was able to instantly migrate to another service, a service provided by Southern Link that used a different manufacturer's MCX server. That would be from Ericsson, because it also supports the 3GPP client interface standard. AT&T has chosen Streamwide for its Fusion MCPTT service, and Streamwide also supports the 3GPP standard. So that has allowed continuity of operation for Dallas. Here's a diagram of the Dallas system. You'll see the Southern Link system here. They actually have a proprietary system from L3Harris called Beyond that we provide connectivity to, LMR, and then they are set up ready to add Fusion to that system as well. So what you see here is a unified multi-technology communications framework. And I'll point out that this diagram is typical of the network configurations that Catalyst provides for connecting land mobile radio to broadband for interworking and for dispatch. Second example is a county-wide interworking system. And so in this case, it's P25 conventional, 6 different channels that are permanently, persistently tied to 6 different talk groups. So it's a very simple implementation, and we've provided some simple tools for them to manage that as a network, if you will, to provide seamless, reliable cross-platform communication. This system has been operational for nearly 2 years. Third system I'll talk about is a statewide interworking and dispatch system. It utilizes 84 different MCPTT talk groups and 13 donor radios. This customer has 20 dual mode consoles. That is, it supports both MCPTT natively and LMR, and does it in a way that's transparent to the dispatchers using a map-based graphical user interface that provides a very simple, visually assisted tool for their operations. It also includes a technology called channel-specific patching that automatically assigns a different talk group to a particular donor radio and points that donor radio to a different tower so that they're able to cover all of the state with 13 donor radios. That system has been operational for over a year. As we look across the many systems that we've put out there, one of the common themes is the popularity of our interworking gateways. And I've provided a diagram here of what that is. That consists of 1 or more donor radios that could be talking to any radio system. Again, there's a lot of analog conventional still out there, and this is a wonderful solution for that, as well as P25 trunking and other systems that are out there. We connect that with a intelligent interface to our interworking gateway, an intelligent interface into the MCX system to be able to provide call flow so that we don't lose information between them, and to get that extra information like unit ID that would be available. I want to emphasize the value of standards compliant interworking gateways. First, the ability for the customer to choose, to switch carriers, to switch push-to-talk over cellular services as he sees fit. And certainly Dallas is a great example of that. Secondly, the ability for customers to then control that interworking themselves, to be able to instantly create those patches or modify them to a different talk group, a different channel, a different P25 group. And importantly, the ability to tear down that connection when the customer thinks it's inappropriate. So for instance, broadband has got so much more capacity. There are times when an agency may choose not to allow all that traffic to flow into their very narrow LMR channels and consume it with broadband communications. Standards breed competition, and competition enables better service and lower prices. What we see now is the global implementation of MCX. Many countries are following the lead of the United States with AT&T FirstNet, and those deployments, those critical mass will continue to drive down prices and enhance the capabilities of MCX solutions. I'll leave you with a call to action. First, insist on standards compliance. If you are a consultant, if you're writing an RFP, if you're buying a system, an upgrade, insist on standards. And particularly, I would note the console subsystem interface. What we see today still, some manufacturers are continuing to use a proprietary interface into their radio systems with their proprietary consoles. The standards suffer when manufacturers don't use it and keep it fully functional. Same thing is true with the base stations and the digital fixed station interface. Secondly, insist on open systems. We see in some cases the claim of this is a standards compliant solution, but only our products can be used on it. Well, that defeats one of the major advantages of a standards compliant system, and that is competition. Thank you for your support of standards. Public safety needs frictionless communications. Taxpayers deserve efficient solutions. I understand the development and maintenance of standards is hard work. I appreciate each of you, your effort. Stay the course. It's paying off. Standards provide a lot of value for our public safety and other critical communications agencies. Thank you.